The views and opinions expressed in this interview are solely those of Athena Marsh and do not reflect the official policy or position of the U.S. Air Force.
Oh, okay. Hi.
Hi. Oh my god. Hey, hello. Thank you for joining the Queer Vision podcast. I am Coe Star, Coe of Kanekalon, and this is...
Hi, I'm Becca.
We are the co-founders of...
Queerlina?
My brain is not here today, as
Queerlina.
you might also see through this podcast. So yes, please enjoy this podcast. We sat down with Athena Marsh to talk about her experiences in the
Air Force.
Air Force, yes. I was going to just say military. In the Air Force, as well as her art and growing up queer, where she was from, all that good stuff, you know. It was a very invigorating conversation. Also being neurodivergent.
Yeah.
And a woman, and in the military.
Intersectionality.
Yes. So, yeah. Keep watching.
Also, I died a little bit in the middle of it, so just ignore that.
Diva.
Okay, love you. Enjoy.
You maybe scoot a little.
Who, which one? Me?
You.
I was going to lay like this, actually, if
Okay.
I'm being 100% honest.
Yeah, comfy. I love it.
Period.
We're here to talk about your mental health.
Oh, yes.
Oh, God, no. I'm in
There you
therapy.
go.
Okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I'll trade you.
Okay, so you are our first interviewee
Ooh.
in person.
Cool.
So
Awesome.
that's
Love that.
really exciting and a new energy.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't really know a lot about you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to share just some who you are, your
Yeah.
pronouns, your name.
Sweet. So I'm Athena Marsh, she, her. I'm from Colorado, so this is super not my neck of the woods. Definitely different vibes. It's not horrible, but just different.
Yeah, I believe it.
But yeah, I joined up after I was 17 to kind of get myself out of a bad situation. I wasn't super healthy in my lifestyle and stuff. And I didn't have any money.
Real.
So yeah, I just joined up. I've been doing that for 7 years. It's doing Air Force. I was a mechanic for 5 of those years, and then I decided I didn't want to do mechanics for another 15 if I kept going. So yeah, I switched over, and now I do Excels all day and build PowerPoints.
Word.
Yeah.
Nice. Literally.
Yeah. That's what I do. I work.
That's so interesting. And see, I'm trying to
use
think
your words.
I know, because I want to ask about your experience in Air Force.
Yeah.
But I don't want it to be too much to
Yeah.
ask.
I
But
mean,
I guess if you can nuanced, I don't know how that is being a queer person.
yeah.
And being a woman in general.
And just
Yeah.
being a woman in general.
So it's never really been an issue. Like I said, I grew up in Colorado, so very hippy dippy vibes. Not really most of the time. There were rural farm kids who were kind of assholes about it. I did run the GSA in high school too.
What is the GSA?
Gay Straight Alliance.
Oh,
Yeah.
You know what? I'm learning out the acronyms from Justin. So I was like, oh, is this a Air Force-y thing? Okay. There's so many.
No, yeah, there's a lot.
There's
of
so
acronyms
many.
in Air Force, it's a language.
I believe it.
But yeah, joining up was never really an issue. My first 2 really tight friends that I made were both gay. We were all kind of going for toxic lesbian relationships at the time, so we definitely trauma bonded going through basic training, and then also just having horrible experiences in relationships. And I was in Vegas, and Vegas was Vegas. So we did Pride every year in October, and as far as service goes, was never really a thing. It was kind of funny to me that my boyfriend would get hit on by guys, and it's are you not picking up the vibe here? Are you not tracking? Wrong tree, sir.
Men social cues.
Yeah, and you get a little desperate sometimes in the Air Force when it's 70-30, you know?
Yeah.
Especially in a mechanics career field. But yeah, I can't really think of any specific instances. I do remember actually when we first got there, they were is it okay if we say fag? We were I guess. As long as you're not being derogatory, which it never really was. Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah, and then it's really never really been a problem until recently, where it's like, okay, it seems like a lot of things are just telling us to like shut up about it. And lots of like bioessentialism more so than anything else, which is like scary because I do have a lot of trans friends in the military too, and now they're like, oh god, what's my service going to look like? Like, am I going to be able to, like, because it again is a lifestyle, and when you get into it, a lot of people do it very long term, because that's kind of the point sometimes of like staying in past 10 is you get those like benefits at the end of another 10. So yeah, it's just been kind of like, I know one of my buddies, like, they had their package basically denied for getting HRT, because it was like like they were right at the last little like under signature, and they're like, no, sorry. So now they're debating even staying in, which is like a bummer, because these people are like good, hardworking, and I think like good people to have in the service. And it's also like made me consider like staying in, because my contract ends in like 5 months, something like that. And I was planning on signing another like 4, because my husband's in, and if my husband's in, I might as well be in. But I'm like, what's like gonna happen? Is it gonna be like, because the fear is like, is don't ask, don't tell gonna come back? It's like the whole thing. But then I decided, I was like, no, I like, they need us here. Like, someone needs to be here.
Exactly.
So yeah, I've just been doing like what I can within the limits that are provided to me, where they're like, right now, like no diversity inclusion. That's like the big thing, right? I think there's no black and white. It's very difficult to like tell what to act upon. So people are just being overly cautious. I think there's also a little bit of like compulsive compliance going on, where it's like people are interpreting it one way, and they're like, just to be safe, let's just make it as like strict as possible, I guess.
Which like never really works. Then you're just giving the full power to that person to make whatever strict rules they want, instead of being like, we're gonna take this in the most like, I want to say conservative way, but like conservative way possible, where it's like, okay, you gave us a rule, we're gonna do as little as possible. You tell us to do something, we're gonna do the bare minimum of what you require of us. That's what we should do.
And even the Air Force has been more like progressive, I guess I would say, when it comes to enacting these sorts of policies, because equal opportunity was one of the things that was kind of like on the chopping block when it came to diversity inclusion kinds of things. And equal opportunity being like the mostly like racial, sexual orientation, disabled rights, those kinds of things, where they're like, if you feel like you're being discriminated against, that is the office you go talk to. I've even come close to like filing my own complaints about just like being a woman in the Air Force, because I had some leadership that was really weird about me like being with boys, which is just like, why would you think it'd be that way? But anyway, so the Equal Opportunity Office is still around. It's still the Air Force has made it very clear that they don't want to do anything with it unless more something comes out. Really, I think like the big target is like trans service members, which is the bummer.
And honestly, and it just shows my own uneducation, because like, it's so hard, but there's so much, media and different things. Like I thought already that like there were issues with like, I thought that you couldn't be trans in the service anymore, because I knew that was a thing. Like I think with the last presidency that Trump was in
4 years ago, and then 4 years before that. So it was a thing. So it was you basically couldn't join, but they did like a what is it called? Like
a grandfather.
Yeah, they grandfathered in. So anyone who are it was even kind of cool too. I learned that like they had 90 days from when the executive order came out, basically like saying that no trans members, whatever. They had 90 days to get their package started. So it wasn't even like your package has to be completed. And by package, I mean like members will. I can't remember the whole process. Obviously, I'm not super familiar. But you go to mental health and you say like, hey, rada, all these things. You get what is it? Dysphoria diagnosis. And then you can move with that package, get other medical clearances for other things. And then there's one tiny little operation going on in Texas, who basically just like did all of the trans stuff. So you would go out there, again, I'm not like super familiar, but I have friends who have like gone out to Texas, and then I think they stay like 2 weeks or something like that, where they go through like different sorts of therapy, different options, talk about like what you can do essentially, whether that be hormones or reassignment surgery, all that kind of stuff. And then after that, you like have a package, which is like your journey, like what's going to happen. And then you just go through the motions, and whatever medical facilities in the area that provide those sorts of things, you go there and you do your things. And
yeah, I mean, it's good that was still, a thing. Even though it does sound like, obviously, there's a lot of hoops to jump through with it, which, I mean, I guess makes sense because being in that kind of field anyway, I feel like anything you do, you probably have to jump through way more hoops than a normal person would have to.
Like even I recently got diagnosed with ADHD, which was a very smooth process this time around, but 2 years ago. This time around.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So 2 years ago, I was also struggling with it. I tried to go get help, and it was like, okay, call this person and come in and take a test, and then rada, and I was like already struggling mentally, and I like couldn't take more on my plate, so I was just like, it's fine. But this time I like went and talked to my doctor. My doctor was like, okay, I'll give you antidepressants because that's the only thing I can prescribe. But do me a favor, go upstairs and just say that you need help for mental health. And I was like, okay. When did that? Had an interview, got my stuff together after a couple more therapist appointments.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically anything you do medically in the Air Force is going to be like a pathways. Lots of people to talk to.
Yeah. So are you, if you don't mind me asking, you don't have to share this, but like, are you medicated for ADHD now? Or are you just, work. Yeah. Okay, me too. So.
Night and day difference.
Really
I feel like I can function like a normal human being now, and I'm like talking to my husband about it, who's like mostly neurotypical. It's smattering of PTSD and depression, and that's fine.
It's fine. That's just normal in the military, right?
Yeah. I'm like, oh my god, I can just like do the thing. I like think about the thing, and I do the thing, and I'm like, oh, cool.
Is this how you've been living this entire time?
Like, yeah, like sucker.
It really is. Like for me, I felt like it went from like, and someone else described it this way, and I was like, oh my god, that makes so much sense. Like going from like you have a bunch of tiny little like flashlights or like laser beams just shooting everywhere, and then it's like all of a sudden you have a spotlight.
Yes. Yeah.
And,
the executive functioning too, where you're like, I can't tell what needs to happen first. Like when you have a lot of little tasks and you just like stare at all of them instead of doing one. It like automatically just gives you a little list of like this. And you're like, oh, cool, brain functioning. Love that.
Maybe I should go.
You do have to be careful with your heart.
I do. You're right.
Yes.
Maybe I need to figure that out.
Yeah.
Different
options. Like, I don't know standard, but there's like others.
Well, it'd be nice to have a spotlight.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you've seen me sometimes, like, I'm, like, in and focused, and sometimes I'm like, I need to do 10,000 different things all at the same time, or else I can't focus on one.
Yeah. And, I mean, it still happens. I feel like, in my experience, like, even being medicated, like, it definitely still,
It'll sneak up on you.
That's true. Like, I can see, like, whenever we go and we have a meeting before you take medicine, or, like, before it kicks in, it's like, you're here, and, like, you just, like, are saying things, but then you're like, I don't know what I was going to type, or like, I don't know what I was going to do. And then all of a sudden, as soon as you take your medicine, like, or as soon as it kicks in, it's like, it's wild. Smooth going.
We're like, I do like a lot of numbers processing, and numbers have like notoriously never stuck in my head. Like, you will tell me one thing, and I turn around for 2 seconds, and I'm like, gone. But yeah, like looking at like 5 different numbers and then being like, okay, I remembered all 5 numbers. Crazy how that didn't take me 10 minutes.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Circling back to like,
there's a topic.
No, like to GSA. I just had a thought. I was curious. You said you grew up in Colorado. Okay, so I'm just curious, like how that experience was, like because I was also in a GSA, but I was in Northeast Tennessee.
Yeah, very different.
So very different, I'm sure. And I had such weird experiences. Like I remember, I think when I was in high school, the teacher that was teaching it like dropped.
Oh no!
And so then it was like, okay, it's student led.
Oh.
I went to one meeting, and this girl had us pray to RuPaul and Ellen DeGeneres.
Okay.
Yeah. I
I
think like she had the right direction, but
he's a little confused, but he's got the spirit.
But it was just like, and then even inside that space, it was so crazy. Like, I was at the time questioning like my gender, and it like changed my name, and I literally got called like my name that I was going by at the time, my dead name.
Yeah.
And they were like, he, she, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, in this space is so crazy that like, so I don't know. I was just curious your experience and how that was for you, because
so like I can't remember. I was a theater kid. I'm kind of a weirdo. I've always been really into anime, and like 15 years ago, that was like not cool. Yeah. It was like, I need like the sea monkeys, weirdo. So I've always been a little bit of a weirdo. And I think I was just in the theater group, and I can't remember like, what specifically. I think like I just had made some trans friends, and I think there's like 2 openly gay dudes, and then I dated like, a lot of closeted girls. And I just like, you know, a couple years in high school, I was like, oh, that's a thing that we should do probably. And I just like talked to the coolest teacher about it, and then we got it all set up, and I was like impromptu president because I was the only one who kind of cared about like, the leadership role. And we did like, I can't remember what it was called. It was like a convention or something, like a couple hours away, and we all like went and had fun.
That's awesome.
Mostly like just us being nerds during lunch period and like having a place to like talk. But and then, you know, President Trump got elected halfway through my high school career.
So how old are you?
I'm 26. Just turned 26 like 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Yeah. Happy late birthday. Okay, so you're like in, kind of the same age range as me, because I'm 23, almost 24.
Yeah, I was calculating that in my head whenever you were like, and Trump got elected halfway through high school. I was like, yeah. Like, what?
How old are you?
I'm 30.
Okay, right on.
Yeah.
So like
it's
you
not
kind
too far away, but like we were literally like, you would have been like a freshman when I was like,
totally
leaving. Yeah. So I experienced it in college, which was right whenever I started getting in politically too, which I did actually just write about that. I literally just wrote this all down in like an opinion piece because I was like, I have to get this out of my brain. Like I also like grew up in a more conservative area, very rural, tiny town. I didn't even realize that I was bisexual until college. And at first, of course, I was like hearing it's experimental. Like everyone experiments in college, you know? Yeah. So you've experienced it too. And so like right about that time was like also one of my teachers was Muslim. So like right whenever like that's
like a whole other thing.
Out, and so I remember like, going to her whenever she stopped wearing her like head covering. And I was like, hey, like, so you changed things. Is everything okay? Like, you did good. And she's just like, I just want to make sure my family's safe. And I was like, oh. And so like I feel like this is like also where like intersectionality comes in, where it's like everybody's experiencing it in different ways. So like Muslim were like the people who were targeted during last time, and like obviously trans people did experience it as well, but I feel like this time now really on the chopping block
there's focuses,
so it's like I wish like we could reach out to more of the people that were affected by it then and like see how they dealt with it to get through it.
That's so
hopefully live, you know.
I think a lot of it's just community, just not shutting up.
Not
shutting up and just like saying we're here and letting other people know that we're here, not even just like-minded people, like everyone else too. You know, it's kind of like a communal thing, but like kind of related. So yes, I happened, and then Trump got elected, and it was really strange how like just the culture shifted, like hard shifted. It was like the next day I came to school, and it was like GSA posters were torn down, and people were being bigots, and like I can't even remember any specific comments or anything, but like it was a thing, you know, like people just got brave about it. They're like, oh, we can say this now. It's okay.
And I feel like we're already starting to see that again.
Absolutely.
You know,
100%.
And that's what's even here, like we put up our drag posters and stuff, and we put them into town hall. And for whatever reason, I want to like, you know, the optimist me wants to believe, okay, it was an 18+ event. They're like, we can't have 18+ events.
Or like maybe it's because we didn't ask them first, and maybe it's because we're charging money, and so like they can't have things you charge money for. We don't know.
But they were took down the next day as soon as we came back. So little things like that, like
or like posting things on Facebook and seeing all those comments. We still have to post on Facebook. That's where we get a lot of people. However,
it's
scrolling through sometimes, I'm like, do I want to fight? Or do I just want to shut up?
Yeah, I think actually like the first time Trump was elected is when I really stopped like looking at Facebook in general. Like I haven't touched my account since I was 14, 15. Just because it's like, you know, your family is on there, and they like to say some brave things too. Sometimes it's like I didn't need to know that Aunt Susan. Like I didn't need to know.
We would have just kept going on and seen each other briefly.
My biggest question, honestly, is did this bring to light things that were already there, or did it cause these thoughts for the first time in a lot of people, or a mixture of both. And I say that because like there are people that are in my life that it's almost like like a switch got flipped.
Oh, spooky.
Yeah, so it's like was this there and you were hiding it because you knew that like if you said something, or is this like this is rhetoric that like, okay, whenever I went to college, my brain also completely flipped because I learned a lot of new things. So is you hearing things for the first time, or hearing it for the first time in like 50 years for some of the older people, right?
Yeah.
And now it flips and you're like, you know what? Actually, I do hate those people because I don't have money and they're the reason why, because so-and-so said it.
Exactly.
Like, is that why? Was it already there? Like, what is the...
Yeah. So this is more nebulous in high school, but I do have a thought. I think it's easier to call people slurs than it is to tackle the economy.
Oh, 100%.
So I think that's kind of where this, like, why it's culture wars, right? One,
exactly.
it's easier to rally people behind. Two, it's easier to just be bigots than it is to do any kind of meaningful change to, like, you know, restructure how income is distributed, you know? Because everybody feels that.
Yeah.
Everybody in America feels that.
Except for like 2 people.
You know. and that's the other thing too. I come from, I lived in Steamboat Springs, which is a ski resort. So we had a really interesting mix of like very rural farm kids who his families have been there for generations. And then like, you know, Isabel, whose family is lawyers and they have 3 houses on every vacation spot in the US. Yeah, and we were just there because, like, we weren't necessarily very rich. We lived an hour out at a time because we couldn't afford to live in the place I went to school. But to say, like, did it, like, unearth the thoughts, or was it, like, I think it really is just, like, cultural.
Yeah.
Like, they're probably, just, especially in high school, repeating things that they hear their parents say.
Exactly.
So I think the bigotry was already kind of there. It was, again, just, like, it allowed them to be brave about it, where it's like, this is okay to say. This person just got elected. And they're saying all these things, so it must be right.
And on that note of like, you know, it's so easier to say a slur than like, you know, fix the economy. I've also been very briefly on social media because I have to take it in doses, you know, because like it's a lot. But I heard Laverne Cox was recently on The View, and she was,
I saw her thing.
Yeah, her talking about, she's like, you know, trans people are like 1% of the population. And trans people are not the reason your eggs are expensive. Trans people are not the reason you can't get gas. Trans people are not the reason that everything is expensive. Like, you're focusing on the wrong 1%.
Absolutely.
And it's just so easy for people to fall into that hive mind. And I think we see it even in like social circles, like with ourselves. I mean, you know, someone, and there's like things, even, this is a whole nother thing we talk about, interfighting in the queer community, and like, you know, when one person's like, oh, like this happened with this person and blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, oh, like I could kind of see that about that person, you know, and it happens so fast as humans. And I think we really have to like check ourselves in the rhetoric and be like, okay, let me form my own opinion. And I think that's the hard part, is a lot of people, and especially in America, like, I think we just get so like, we get lazy. Like, we don't want to form our own opinions. We're just like, oh, someone's on a platform and they're telling us this. And I mean, you see it through social media, you see it through celebrities, like,
especially it's just like this like hive mind where it really is just like echo chamber. Just like your opinions are different, ergo you're not a person to me. I think that's pretty like common.
That kind of goes on both sides. Like I've literally seen people shut down anybody that's like more conservative. And I'm not saying like everybody deserves a talking piece, to be honest. But there are people that like I know in my life that have voted more conservatively, that may have even voted for Trump, where it's like, I know that if I talk to you about these topics, you don't believe that trans people shouldn't exist. You don't believe that women don't deserve healthcare. You don't believe like all these little individual things. But the misinformation is so loud in the echo chambers, like whenever you get on social media and you are already conservative, you're hearing, well, Trump wants to make peace. It's like, and then we're sitting here like,
does it feel like are you in war currently?
are you reading things? And it's like, but there's so much information coming from all sides that it's so hard. If you look on Google and you say, does Trump want peace? What do you think is going to come up? Do you think it's going to come up out of trans ban? Like, do you think it's going to, like, no. And so they're just reinforcing that belief.
Exactly.
So the only way we can do it is to communicate, literally, like you said,
just to, like,
with everyone.
Be available, be active. And it's difficult too, because I understand how people want to like just shut down and shut it out. I've had a lot of conversations like that in the last couple of weeks where people are just like, man, you're being like so charismatic and like so like positive about this whole thing. It's like I have to
No, it's real.
If not, I'm going to curl up and die. That's literally the other option.
And I have to believe that like what I'm doing is going to create some kind of impact, or at least, and like I already see that by people telling me that I'm being positive about it. That's like me getting the like, okay, someone sees, someone sees. It's worth it even if it like the 10 people who my group is a part of like just feel like I will protect them. But yeah, just like talk to a lot of them, it's just like, sorry, not to cut off.
No, sorry, to cut off you. Keep going.
There was like the kind of thing where there's a gay guy in my office, and we went to put up some posters, and he was told that he couldn't, and like he didn't want to like react to that. He didn't want to try to be firm about it. So he just came into my office and talked to me about it after. And he's like, I honestly like feel attacked, and I'm like, yeah, that's valid.
That's literally what happened.
Yeah.
It's
Well, even if it like wasn't meant to be that way, because like again, like mostly a lot of like support when it came to like advertising for my community and that kind of thing. But then all of a sudden it's like, oh, is this like allowed? Is this like people are scared? They don't want to get in trouble, especially when it comes to like military stuff, because the military can be very like swift and harsh with the punishments.
I did hear an entire evening of a rant about things getting shut down, and this was even before things got shut down, about people posting about your flyer on some NCO page.
Yeah, so basically what ended up happening, this is probably fun because it is just an experience. I run the Seymour Pride group on base. I'm actually repping it today in memorial.
Nice.
We're no longer Seymour Pride. We got the advice that we need to distance ourselves from the base, so we're now Pride Soup Social. I think we're actually maybe just pivot to more Pride.
Yeah,
we like that.
That's cute too.
We'll see what the future holds. But I guess to start like at the beginning of the story, that poster scenario happened. And this is an event that I've been planning for like probably 2 months at this point. Not new. But all the executive orders had just come out like that Friday, I think. So we go to try to put it up. He has that whole interaction. I'm like, okay. I couldn't deal with it right then. I had something that I had to go do for like work. So I was like, okay, pin. It was a Friday. And I came in that Monday, and I went and talked to legal. And legal was essentially like, sorry, to preface the flyer, it was like a D&D event. And it had like pride in rainbow colors, and then like a bunch of different flags. It had like the bi flag, intersex flag.
It also said all are welcome here, didn't
all are
it?
welcome.
Yeah, so it did. It was very
welcome.
inclusive.
And that's the other thing too. We've run, so we got together the prior June. Not to get my storyline too jacked up. Sorry, guys.
You know what? All of the listeners will probably have ADHD as well.
Sweet. Here's for you guys. But we, I got an email that was sent to one of the trans members that was like, hey, you guys have a pride group on base? And she was PCS at the time, so she's like, no, but here are some people who would probably be interested, and like CC'd me and like probably 5 other people who she knew were queer in some way. And then I was like, oh yeah, like that probably should exist.
Yeah.
So we just got together, started having meetings, had June. June was like our big like huzzah. Did like a color run. We did a Rocky Horror Picture showing at the Paramount Theater. Super cool guys, love the Paramount Theater. Go support them. But yeah, it was like pretty casual. I mean, we're tiny. There's maybe 35 people in the group and 2 active members. So we're just going through the motions. We did like a trans memorial at some point. I think November, Trans Day of Remembrance. Yeah. So we've only been around for a very short time. And typically our events aren't huge by any means. Like maybe 15 people show up on a good day. Where was I? The background.
It was the background. So you talk about the flyer.
Yes.
The flyer getting removed.
Yes.
Oh, yes. So I ended up posting it in a group chat for the dorms, like a Discord group chat for the dorms. My working theory is that is where it was leaked. Obviously, we won't know. But it was submitted to the Airman NCO page, which is like followed by many members of the Air Force all over the place. They do a lot of like news where they just talk about like different changes going on in the Air Force, different events, like water is out of space or something. Mostly fairly neutral, but it did get submitted there, and a lot of it was just like, are they allowed to do this? But yeah, it's unfortunate. So it was a Make It Better Club, which is like a Seymour-ism. It's not really common on most other bases. The first time I'd ever heard of it was when I came here. And it's essentially just like a group of social clubs for people to get out of the dorms and go and have some kind of social life. It's really easy to just like get sucked into group doom scroll and do nothing.
Literally to make your life better.
Yeah. So we just formed a little pride group and been doing pride stuff. I was going to say that like the Everybody Welcome thing. So we did some like educational seminars. Colonel Fram, who is I think the highest ranking trans member in the U.S. Air Force, she came out and like did a little virtual call with us, and like so many people showed up. So many people who were just like interested to hear what her story was like. We did a Help My Truth Just Came Out to Me kind of thing, where we wanted to like give people advice on like if your member comes to you and says, "Hey, I'm trans," like what do you do next? Again, it's like the military is also a 1%, and then trans military members are 1% of the 1%. But you know they're there. You should like as a supervisor, the whole thing is like you should be able to help your troop with whatever they need. So the goal of that one was to like educate as many people as possible for like those sorts of instances, because it could happen to you. You never know. But yeah, we've always tried to be very like anybody. You know, we're not exclusive by any means. And
that kind of also like makes me think about like, I know we had talks about how inclusivity does not like equal exclusivity, but there's so many people who often like will feel that way, you know?
Like if you don't have every single, you're not actually inclusive. Like that's actually why we chose queer instead of LGBTQIA.
Absolutely.
Like, and keep saying like all these letters, because it's like even saying LGBTQIA, there are so many after that. So are we also going to say like the 1,000 that come, or are we just going to say queer? You're all under this umbrella. We love you all. And we also love the allies. Let's go.
Absolutely.
I think it also comes down to like I don't know, like even, you know, within like an analogy I know that was used like with the Black Lives Matter movement as well is like when your house is burning, you have to kind of focus on that house that is on fire before, and it's not saying that, oh, your house isn't important, don't want your house to burn down, but like your house isn't on fire right now.
Why are we putting water
so
on it?
so why are we dousing your house as well as we're dousing our house? Like, no, we should be focused on like putting out the fire.
We only have so much water. We need to focus it where
So yeah, I think that's an interesting thing too.
And just like energy. Like I was saying, like just talking to people who are just like, I don't have the bandwidth for any of it right now.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
no, that's so true.
I'm just like full of rage and I need to channel it somewhere productive.
And I think that's so good that you're like, you know, wanting to still be visible and be like, you know, I need to be here. I need to be seen. And that's kind of, you know, why we started Queer Alina too. It's like, okay, we're going to this new presidency and we're in the South. And right now we need to amplify queer voices more than ever because everybody is scared and everybody is going to kind of shy away. I mean, I spent that whole first day being more like trans men presenting at the time as well, was like, you know, where can I go that I can like exist freely? Where can trans people live safe? Can I go to this country? Can I go to this country? Can I go to this country? Until it kind of just, you know, hit me that I'm like, okay, well, maybe I do stay here.
Maybe I don't abandon shit.
Yeah. Maybe I do stay for the people, you know, that have to. And all that being said is like, you know, every queer person needs to do what's best for them.
Yeah.
And not everybody is able to like fight the fight. It's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. It's stressful. I don't even feel like I haven't faced any like hardcore discrimination by any means.
Yeah.
And even just like the little pushback of like, and the unknown, right?
Yeah,
where it's like, what's going to happen to my friends? What's going to happen like culturally? Even like doing this event, I was like so nervous and anxious that like some brave hater was going to show up and just like do something. I don't know. They could be crazy.
We definitely had that conversation where like Chloe has experienced a lot more of the pushback, like
Mm-hmm.
in their normal life. So like whenever
Yeah.
I came in and was like, I have a concern about this event, she was just like, hey, so you haven't experienced some pushback yet, so like you're gonna kind of have to get used to being uncomfortable. And like it is hard, and at the same time, like also part of the safety is like not just about us, it's about the people that are coming or performing or whatever. And so like it's like, okay, like now we're taking this on as a business, not just as a people. Like how do we do this? I think this is also where we like have to kind of trust our allies a little bit too. Like Justin was probably more mad than like you were at that point, because he's like, why? It is inclusive. This is so stupid. Like he was so mad. And so like something like that, where it's like, it's not going to affect him directly. He is straight, he is white, he is, you know, he is perfectly fine over here, no matter what happens to us. But he has that energy because he's not being attacked, that like he can be like, I can put my nose out there a little bit. I can put my nose out there because you aren't going to cut it off. You're just going to like push me, you know?
Yeah, that's so true.
And like he's been so supportive too. Like I didn't even think about it because like honestly, so like when the whole fire thing happened and it was like, oh my god, what's going to happen? I went and talked to legal and I was like, showed them the flyer. I was like, wrong or right, like black and white, right? Because that's what legal was supposed to do. They took it back for like an hour, I guess, like in some conversations or whatever. Then they came back and they were like kind of being wishy-washy about it. They didn't really like want to give me a solid answer, and which I understand now is because they don't have one.
This is where they should step up and fucking make one.
Right. So that's kind of like, this is why I'm like doing so much pushback, is that like nothing says that I can't. Just give me a no and I'll back up, because a no is a no and that's fine. But I don't have a no.
It's not fine. But also,
but I'll like, you know, I'll follow the rules. Right? Like, because that's what I gotta do at the end of the day.
I mean, they can own you.
Exactly.
It's a little different.
I gotta follow the rules. But if no one knows what the rules are and you're not giving me a no,
then let's fucking make the rules.
Then let's and I think that's kind of what's happening right now, because it is very like vague what like actually implementing these things are going to look like. We'll have more answers theoretically next week. Legal essentially came back to me and they were like, our official legal advice is to hold off for now until there's more clarity. I was like, okay, that's still not a no. And this event is happening on Saturday. So
we're gonna do it. And then things got modified and it still worked out great.
We just pivoted. We became a social group, no DoD affiliation, made that very clear on everything I possibly could have. My only worry going forward is that I don't know how, because the kind of point of like doing this, in my opinion, is to like reach those people who don't have community. Like, I have community. My sister's very openly queer. My husband's bi. Very many of my friends and family are queer. I have my community that I can talk to and have visibility and support when it comes to like queer issues or whatever. But when you just join the Air Force at like 18 and you're more than likely ripped away from any kind of safety net that you had, I was very lucky that I had two people who were like, they're like I did, and we had the same kind of issues going on, but not everyone is. So the point of me like building this like See More Pride was to like reach out to those people who are very young and don't have any kind of safety net or don't know where to start or don't know who to talk to, and it's just kind of like, hey, we're here, talk to if you need to, you know, like, because we even have like a lot of people who are like, they've talked openly about like figuring stuff out, not knowing like what they feel about their gender and stuff like that, and I don't think that they would have those conversations without that group being there. So like going forward, it does make me nervous, like, how am I going to reach those people? How am I going to reach those people who don't have the community?
I admire that a lot too, and that's kind of why we like want to stay here and be like in more of like, you know, the Smithfield, Selma, like smaller area, is because once again it's like, yeah, we could go to Raleigh and it's still going to be pushback in Raleigh, but it may be a little easier. But where's the voice here? You know, for anybody, where's the safe space here?
They're everywhere. Like when we did the Rocky Horror Picture Show, we had like, they were so awesome, man. I love the Paramount Theater. I can't like sing their praises enough. I like just messaged the owner and I was like, hey, you guys are already doing a Rocky Horror thing. Would you mind if we came out and just kind of rapped a little bit? So we set up like a little booth, put our like little rainbow flag out there. I was dressed up as Frankenfurter.
I live.
But it was awesome, and we were just like, we had our stickers, we had our shirts out. We have like little patches too.
They're so cute.
So we take donations in exchange. And we had so many people who were like, I could tell like being trans, and they're like, it's so cool that you're here. And I was like, you probably don't have very many people who are out and loud about it. It was just like, it was really reaffirming going to that and being like, okay, there are people in the community who need to see this.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll cut that out. Well, I almost wonder, could you, like, while this is all going on, could you just transition it more to a Goldsboro, more pride, that kind of thing, and just still, like, because there's nothing to say you can't market things that are happening in Goldsboro on base, right? So, like, if there is an event that is happening in Goldsboro, you can just be like, hey, everyone on base that's queer or that just wants to go and support queer people, there's a thing going on. You don't have to say that it was started originally by what was Seymour Pride.
So yeah, like, we know what it is, just kind of social club, no affiliation, right, whatever. What the issue is that it's no forward-presenting diversity inclusion initiatives. And forward-presenting meaning, like, available on base, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think the direct, like, I've been reading a lot of it, I'm trying to figure out what the rules are.
And the skirt around.
Just to, like, what are my limits, right?
Yeah.
Because if I don't know, I don't know. If I don't want to shop, what does it say? It says we cannot use Air Force funds or Air Force assets to include man hours to host diversity and inclusion initiatives. I think it's actually cultural awareness is what it is, not diversity and inclusion even. So no Air Force assets to include man hours to host cultural awareness, whatever. And my, like, question is hosting considered, like, putting up fires and stuff like that?
And that's just like a whole mess of a sentence anyway. Like, to try to be like...
They don't know the answer.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't know the answer. They made it broad on purpose.
Yeah, exactly. So the compulsive compliance sets in, and people are just like, oh, I don't know, so I guess shut down everything.
Yeah.
So at what point are we ready for malicious compliance?
Right. I've tried to find ways around it. Because even, like, we got another one, I think, like, a couple days ago, where it had, like, biological truth in the name of the executive order, so that was already, it was protecting women from something biological truth. And I was like, cool. Sure.
It says a bunch of men who have assaulted women.
And just, like, there's plenty of cis women who aren't necessarily presenting, especially in the military. That really, like, protecting. I'm sure it's not protecting these kind of masculine-looking women who are running around the military everywhere. I'm sure they're getting a lot of weird looks. That's besides the point, though. But essentially, they shut down pronoun uses in emails. They were like, basically, no, I can't even remember exactly what it said, but they were like, no she, her, no they, them, no he, him.
Okay, but this is where the malicious compliance comes in, where every single time you're talking about somebody, now you type their name exactly. And so that entire paragraph, there are no pronouns. Yeah. I have no pronouns. Yeah. There are no such things as pronouns. Well, then you're going to fucking hate me.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to see this person's name 50 times then. Yeah. Sorry.
I always use, like, the member. Because, like, I don't even ever know who I'm talking about. So I try to keep it as neutral as possible. So for sure.
It's all those little things, like, that stack up, and I hate that that's where we're coming to, but I mean, it's what it is. And not to segue, but I did want to mention the fact...
Segues.
Well, listen, how else do you break a topic?
Right, yeah.
You are an artist.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
that was the original reason.
Yeah.
You're not about this mess.
Yeah. So.
Well, yeah, sorry, 2 seconds. I wasn't sure I was going to have much to talk about. Everything. I'm like, I do have a lot to talk about. But artistry, yes.
Yeah. So, do you want to share a little bit about, like, that? What kind of started your love for art? I've seen the stuff you do, and I love it. Like, I love that style so much. I'd love to see, like, a cartoon or, like, a comic book. Oh my god, I'd eat it up.
So I guess a little bit more personal. I've always really liked art. I've done it since forever. Again, anime nerd. I love watching anime. I think I've always kind of, like, been very drawn to it. Magic girls and all that good stuff. So yeah, I think I've kept a sketchbook since I could. Yeah, I've done it forever. And then, like, I joined and it kind of slowed down. Everyone has, like, the big trauma from, like, 19 to 23 where your life is just kind of, because you don't know, like, how to be an adult, and no one else around you knows how to be an adult, and no one can, like, communicate or, like, be responsible with their emotions.
Adults don't know how to be adults, let's be honest.
Yeah, there's that too. But, you grow up a little bit at some point, and you're like, yeah, I probably should have handled that differently, or, like, that person was fucked up for doing it that way. So, it, like, kind of slowed down for a long time, like, being in the service, and then, like, the ADHD, like, really caught up to me. Where I was, like, maybe doing a piece every, like, 6 months. If you look at my Instagram, you can see, like, I posted, like, maybe twice a year the last, like, 4 years. Then I'm medicated. I've been going, like, crazy. Like, yeah, I have a lot of stuff. I haven't posted any of it yet because I know I'm, like, uber meticulous. It's been, like, way too... I drew, like, a meme the other day for our D&D campaign, and I spent, like, 5 hours rendering a gun because I was, like, having fun with it. Yeah. But I've always just really loved it. And then, doing the whole Pride stuff, I've done a lot of art for it. So we, like, this banner and, like, logos and all that kind of stuff. And
that was what I was going to say, is, like, I can definitely see that, like, just from you, like, talking about the things that you were handing out, that you have very much, like, the, like, artist business brain, though. Yeah. And I love that combo. I mean, I feel like I have it. You have it.
Yeah.
It's just so nice to, like, see more people like that.
I'm, like, essentially a professional poster maker now. I've done, like, probably 15 over the last year for just, like, various groups and stuff.
Do you usually, like, draw them, like, by hand, or how do you usually go about that? Like, what's your process?
So you get a sketchbook. I was doing traditional for a really long time, but anytime I do anything that, like, I want to print or, like, do official, I'll do it digitally. So I use Fire Alpaca, which is, like, a free to download just art system. It has animation software. Animation is what I want to pivot towards. Eventually, like, I'm going to sign for 2 years, and then I'm going to go to art school. Like, that's the plan right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Fire Alpaca, it's got animation software. That's why I use it, and it's free. And then a Wacom tablet that my friend gifted me, like, 5 years ago. It still works. Yeah. So, like, tablet draw, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I love hearing that too. Like, just, like, I don't know. I feel like even me, like, people get so caught up in, like, oh, I need this brand new thing. Like, I need to have this iPad or this or that. And, like, you can make what you have work.
Absolutely.
And make it last.
Yeah. And my tablets are expensive, but, like, even, like, I had a fairly cheap one. It was, like, I think this, it's like 13 or something in my family, just, like, I have an aunt who's, like, the best person in the world. And she gifted me a tablet for, like, my 13th birthday, and then I've been doing digital art ever since. Don't look too hard at my Facebook. I have, like, very, very old art on there.
But
then you can see your growth.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been looking at my deviant art a lot recently because I've been doing this whole thing, like, taking all of these original characters I have and trying to, like, formulate them into something that's not teenage angst. But yeah, just, like, looking a lot at them. I'm like, man, no, I really haven't improved, which I just think is another reason I'm so meticulous about it, because I want to push myself harder to do more, like, dynamic poses, more dynamic things that, like, especially, like, having a dry period of, like, 4 or 5 years where I didn't do very much. Just kind of, like, pushing myself to, like, take the time to do it, because I think that's part of it too. I just, like, wanted to do it and have it be great. Just funny because I'm really rusty now, but, like, I take a really long time to do better.
Yeah. And I love hearing you say that thing about, like, how being medicated has helped you with your art too, because I think even when I was first going to get medicated, I was so scared, and I think a lot of
you're gonna dull your sparkle.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that is such a rhetoric. Like, people are like,
absolutely,
I'm gonna, like, lose my creativity. Like, I'm gonna be so numb, and I'm never gonna have thoughts. But honestly, sometimes it helps, and it makes them fire off more, because, like, you're not all the noises.
The bridges.
Yeah, like, exactly.
Like, I like to call it, like, scrapbook. Like, that's kind of how my, like, brain works. Is it's just, like, through pages, and then, like, randomly, like, lands on a page. I'm like, oh, this now. But it kind of makes it adjusts. There's order. It makes it like, okay, this is how I execute the thing. Instead of, like, having a concept and being like, yeah, that'd be cool. I can't do that.
Yeah, and then just, like, running to the next thing.
And just giving up too, where it's like, even if it's not going to look exactly the way I want it to or whatever, putting the effort in to try, and then you improve ultimately the more you draw.
That's kind of what you had mentioned at one point. I think you were talking about wigs we've talked about a lot with
on.
art,
Yeah.
right? But you were kind of
Are you
like,
good?
yeah, I
Sorry.
swallowed wrong,
Okay.
and then I started coughing, and I was trying not to cough because I
Okay.
didn't want it to be on audio.
Are we moving you with our
Yeah, I mean, I wish that I was medicating, guys. No, you had talked about like art stuff and how like you have to get to the point where like you're seeing your art as its own thing instead of what you want it to be. So like it will grow and you'll be like, oh, it was a mistake, but actually it's not a mistake. It's just where the art wanted to be.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard of a book. It's called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert.
Oh yeah, that's what you're talking about.
It's like, it's my creative Bible.
I've been recording this entire conversation to you, Becca, by the way.
No.
Big magic.
Yes, you'll have to look it up. It's if Megan was here, that's our other. She's just like our co-host. She would also go on about it because when we first met, it actually like made us more friends because she was like, you should listen to this book or like read this book. And I was like, okay. And then I got the little Audible version. Like went on my runs in the morning and would listen to it, and it taught one of the big things that she talks about is like creativity being on like this other plane almost. It's very woo woo.
No, I love that.
But it's like creativity's on this other plane, and you're like having a relationship with the creative ideas.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like creativity and these creative ideas know that they can only be brought to life through humans. Mm-hmm. So they come and kind of approach you. And so if you aren't giving them the same energy or the same respect like you would in a relationship with another human, they will kind of flow away or find someone else. Yeah. And it also just like, it helps like separate, I feel, the artist from the art and be like, okay, like if it goes a different way, like I'm not the one in charge of that. Right. It's like the reminder that art really is something that's like a little higher and more than us.
Yeah, I'm about to get woo too. Let's go.
Well, we are in a crystal shop. Oh,
yeah. Actually, this is perfect. So, like, sorry.
No.
Oh gosh.
No, I got a tattoo, right? Oh. So this is a story. It's from Kiki's Delivery.
I reckon it's
this movie is so important to me because I ultimately see it as a witch's relationship with magic, which I relate to a lot as my relationship with art. Mm-hmm. So if you don't know anything about the movie, she's a little witch, she goes away, she's 13, she's trying to make it a big bad world. She kind of like has depression and like things don't go the way she wants, and then like she loses touch with her magic, and that's her identity. So she like doesn't know what to do, but she goes on this break and she talks to an artist, and the artist is like, yeah, I like forever I like whatever I painted just didn't look right and I didn't like it. And then one day I took a break. I went on long walks and I didn't even pick up a paintbrush, and then one day I just woke up and started painting again. Mm-hmm. So like when I talk about that like 4-year dry spell, it was like being an artist is such a core part of my identity. Like I've said, I've been doing it forever. So like I have like lots of like, you know, just being 20 and like emotions. You're just like, fuck, this is like the one thing I'm good at. What am I gonna do if it never comes back? But it does. It'll come back. It's magic. It's inherent to you. And once you rest and once you find what you need, it'll come back and it'll be better probably.
Yeah. And it's also like that thing that like, I don't know, creativity is so innately human, and like we're all creative in our own ways. Whether you're making just a meal at home like that, that's art, because you're putting something together and making something. And I think people fail to realize that. But I've definitely had my own experience with, you know, the dry spell and stuff. I used to do makeup full time on social media, and then it was so intertwined with my, like the same thing. It was so intertwined with my identity. And then I got really burnt out.
Who am I?
Got really burnt out, and I'm like, oh my god, like what am I doing? And had like this kind of 2-year moment where everything was like chaotic and spirally, and I was figuring out who I was. But now I feel so much more stronger in like the things that I'm creating than I have.
I think it's also just like getting older.
That too.
You're just like settled, like okay. It is that, what is it, like the frontal cortex, whatever, like solidifying. It's like, oh, okay, got it. I've never had a 5-year plan until this year. I was like, oh, I understand now. Like,
real.
There's no reason to have a 5-year plan. No, but also like I feel like in capitalism, in the way we are living, that's also very stifling too. Because I think a lot of people, the reason they're like, I have to sit down and I have to do this right now, is because they're like, I work this time. I have this much time to be creative, and so it's like I have to do it now instead of I get to do it now. And then also like whenever you were talking about like the things we've talked about that a bunch. Well, I've heard you and Megan talk about that a bunch, to be honest, because I haven't read the book yet. But like it flowing and the ideas existing elsewhere, honestly, kind of makes me feel better. Creatively. Those words.
You said it right. I did not.
Yeah. Okay. One of those words. Because it's like sometimes I will compare myself to another artist.
Oh gosh,
right?
that is the
and like
that is the idea killer.
Yeah, because I can't sketch to
No.
save my life. My dad is an amazing
Aw.
artist. Like he went
Gosh,
to
that's like a
school.
whole other level too. It's like that's my
Yeah.
direct family relation.
Yeah, like he went to school for architecture, plan, and design.
Wow.
I went to school
Wow.
for civil engineering.
Right.
So we have an overlap.
Yeah.
I like helped him in the wood shop, and I was like, yeah, but then I'm like, I hate saws.
This.
I hate saws. I like the idea of the creation. I like the idea of the design, but then like he would sketch something and it would just look like it's supposed to be on a sign.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be here. And so I'm sitting here like, I can sketch too. And then I'd sketch like a cat and it looked like a blob. And I'm like, well,
Never mind.
I can try. And so like for me, seeing artists like you who can sketch in like thousands of different styles. Ours, our artist for the magazine, like amazing. They're all amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just sitting here like, well, like why can't I do that? I'm not an artist. Like I'm not creative. And then like people walk in my fucking house and they're like,
Like the interior design.
That's very much an artistry too.
Yeah.
That's very much an artistry too.
Yeah.
And like all the little earrings.
Yeah,
Just
but,
give
like,
yourself credit. You make things.
I do make things, but like I feel like I'm like a crafter, not an artist. You see what I'm saying? Where it's
Right.
like I'm like, oh, it's not there. Like I just look at
medium.
yeah, like I'm like
Like a
on Pinterest and I see things and I'm like, oh, this kind of I can like modify this. And so I'm like, that's not art because somebody else already did that idea. And so it's like, no, the ideas are already out there, and like that's why that makes me feel so much better because it's like, the ideas out there. I'm just making it reality.
Yes. Your interpretation.
Yeah.
No such thing as an original idea.
Yeah,
Also,
that's what I was
talent
gonna
is
say.
just pursued interest.
Yeah.
Valid.
Yes.
So that's why, and I haven't finished this book, but there is a book called How to Steal Like an Artist because it's
I
real.
love
Like you, and I listened to a little bit of it, but it's
Reading list for next time.
Yeah.
like they just, because no idea is original, and it's all about taking little bits and pieces from everyone else and like forming it into some thing that's unique to you.
You're gonna leave your like mesh on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember, I remember this like, it's a Tumblr post or something, but I think about it often, where he's like an artist teaching artists, like elementary school students or something, and they're like, you can't trace or whatever, like that's not learning. And he's like, no, yeah, but like it's building fundamental concepts. So even if you like want to get into artistry and you don't know how, like just picking out art that you really like and then tracing it. Obviously, don't post it and be like, oh, look at this cool thing that I did all by myself. But like just doing the tracing, that is building concepts.
Yeah. That's exactly what my dad said. Literally, I still have the book that he got me. That was like, it's like this big, and it's just all things that you can trace. And like it starts with small thing, like small, and then like it'll get more detailed. And so I'm like, yeah. And then I was just like, maybe I just don't like sketching. Maybe
but if you don't like it,
maybe this is just
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I'm just not good at it. But that's like what I view as art, right? Like that and painting. And so like I do like the paint by numbers. And at one point, Chloe was like, "Did you paint this all yourself?" And I was like, "Yeah, but it's a paint by numbers." And they're just like, you still did it though.
Yeah.
So it's like,
and your paint by numbers and I paint by numbers are probably
so
gonna look
different.
Mhm.
So different. Yeah.
I get that.
Look at us and figuring out creativity.
Yeah.
No, it's real. And I mean, even like for me with like makeup and stuff, I had to like you said, learn fundamental concepts, and then through that, that's where that artistry is built because it's like there's parts, and that was something I struggled with a lot too. Is like separating skill set from art and realizing like you can implement something as a skill set, and it can still also be your art medium. But when you're doing it as art versus a skill set can be very different, and they overlap, of course. But it's like I think sometimes like reminding yourself that is like helpful. I don't know. Personal opinion. When you start getting business and art mixed
right,
all that is really what
hard.
it more is.
Totally.
What is your, if you feel comfortable sharing it, what is your Instagram for your art?
I believe I'm Bird Opossum right now. BIRDOPPOSSUM. So it's possum spelled wrong, but I would think about switching over to Box because I think that's easier to remember and spell probably. But yeah, I'm on there. It's Athena. You recognize the curls in the profile.
Yes.
Yeah, because we'll probably put that in the March.
Yeah, it'll probably be March. So if something changes, just let us know. Cut it.
Yeah,
to
I gotta
whichever
make
one.
that switch over to Spokebucks. I think that's the plan.
Yeah.
Bird Opossum was a 7-year dry spell. So it's gotta switch over.
Yes, rebirth.
Yeah, rebirth at the time.
We also asked the Megan question.
Oh yes. So since Megan is not here,
I'm refusing. You can do it.
oh my god, Megan is a chef.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah. So she 2 questions that she always asks everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So, first of all, what is your favorite meal?
I really love homemade chicken soup, dumplings.
Homemade chicken soup with dumplings. Is there a specific way that it's made?
Curry powder.
Curry
So
powder.
that's a secret spice. So
well, that's not gonna be a secret.
Yeah, no, I want everyone to eat it, so please take that. But yeah, just homemade chicken soup. I like it shredded up sometimes, noodles or no. Usually no noodles if you have dumplings, but yeah, that curry powder and turmeric and garlic. Yeah,
Word.
So
yeah,
chicken soup.
Because we're gonna have in the future, we'll have a future series where we'll invite everybody back and we'll have a little meal. We'll cook a meal, sit down, chit chat, all eat it. So the second question is, what is your preferred way to have a potato?
Ooh, French fries. Yeah, just
we're on the
fried,
same wavelength.
Yeah.
Megan would be rolling her eyes right now.
She would be rolling her eyes. She says it's the most boring, but I feel like you can toast fry with anything.
Yeah, and I just love the crunch. Crunch
exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Little seasoning salt even.
Yeah. It can be simple. It can be extravagant. You can have truffle oil on them.
It goes with anything. It goes by itself.
Yeah.
I'm not hungry at all. I literally had seaweed snacks and salami for breakfast because
that sounds like an interesting combo.
No, me and you both. I had to look at you for your reaction.
Okay, so here's what happened: is I spent the night at Justin's house last night, and Justin is not a snacker. Yeah. I want to be clear about this: there are no snacks in that man's home, and here's why: because if there are, he will eat them all immediately. Mm-hmm. I have to have snacks in my house. I also haven't gone to the grocery store in a while, so all I have for snacks are Slim Jims, salami, rice cakes, and the seaweed snacks. That's all I have left right now. So I had to make do with it. And Chloe did get me a chocolate muffin, so I had half of that as well before.
Yes.
It was a very
eclectic.
I was gonna say healthy, but it's not healthy at all.
I don't know, Diva. I mean, you had the seaweed in there.
Yes, I got
something.
Seaweed and
whatever
salami
vitamins are.
I was gonna say probably.
Seaweed and salami is.
Hey, that's my neighbor.
Crazy.
Hi, neighbor.
Yeah. Was there anything else that you felt like you wanted to add? Anything you wanted to talk about
or ask or whatever?
Yeah.
Just be visible and community.
Yes.
I've been preaching it for the last year, but right now it's so important. Reach out to your friends, reach out to your family, let people know that you can talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
They can talk to you. Yeah, just try to exude that safe space energy.
That's so real. Letting people know hey, I am someone you can come to, and whether you're a queer person, an ally, any of that.
And I guess so. I had to take down my posters, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I ended up doing in its place is I printed off the basically MFR memorandum of record from the commander saying you are responsible for the culture that you create with your teammates, talking about ego and stuff and how it's not going away. We do not discriminate people. So I printed it off, highlighted those portions, pinned it to my wall, and then I also printed off Private First Class. Oh, I cannot remember. It starts with a K, but he was one of the first federal employees to be kicked out for being gay. Mm-hmm. Tech Sergeant Maklovich, who openly came out as gay after Vietnam happened, as protest to the whole Dopey Day thing. Mm-hmm. And then Airman Second Class. Oh, I can't remember her name either right now, but she was the first woman to be kicked out for being gay, essentially. So I printed all those guys off, and I have them pinned right next to it. So that's kind of my subtle. Mm-hmm. We're here. We're not going away.
It's also that reminder to people that we've been through this before. Yes. And there's other, especially older queer people. They've seen this. They've dealt with it, and as a people, we have been through worse. Mm-hmm. And so we can get through whatever the next 4 years hold.
It's only been legal for 10 years to get married to the same sex.
Exactly.
And we're still very much in the infancy of full acceptance, I guess.
Exactly.
But we're also not 100 years ago where you would be arrested for having some kind of same-sex relations in the privacy of a bar or something. Because that's how a lot of those people ended up getting kicked out, is because they were stalking them and then found out and then were outed. I don't think we're there yet, and I don't think we're gonna get there.
Yeah.
I don't think we can.
No.
It's too much progress, man.
Exactly.
Can't turn back the clock the whole way.
I see what you're saying, and I really, really hope, and I'm trying to be optimistic. However, wasn't the Middle East also pretty progressive in like the 70s before some things happened?
And
so like,
and
that's
what I was about to
the United
say.
States
this again. There you go.
And
So that's where I'm a little worried, and that's why like we know that we are putting our head on the chopping block right now by literally just existing and by choosing to be outwardly loud and proud and supportive. And so like for anybody who is very anxious about it, like you're right, it's scary. It could literally happen. We've seen it. Like The Handmaid's Tale was written out true history, like I mean mashed together, but like still it's like real historical things. So like I think we need to keep in mind that like though we can say we've been through this and we'll get through this, there are also people who won't.
No, and that is true. Like it is a blanket optimistic statement, I will say. And things may get
worse before they get better.
Yeah. And like you said, it may, and I hate to use the word war, but it may be a war. It may be some sort of like, revolutionary civil, I don't know. But I think that's why I think, what you said though is true though. It's like, I think there are enough people at this point that it's like, we're not going back there. Like, it's not an option to completely go back.
Is like, so one of the people who is like, she's the judge for essentially one of the many cases happening right now for something. I can't even keep up with all of it.
No, same.
But she's queer, and like there's I think enough people in positions of authority, like maybe we will all get pushed out, and just praying it won't happen. I choose to be optimistic.
Yes.
I think it's like it would just be a problem. I think it would cause more problems.
Yeah.
Which like maybe that happens. It's more
and
problems,
maybe they don't care.
That's instability, and that's also a weak spot.
Well, I did also see, and not to contradict my own point, because like my brain literally is like this against itself. Like,
I think that's how we all feel.
Yeah.
Right now.
So like, but I have been being on TikTok because I still have something. But like, there are people that are like, whenever an animal's dying, like it will have like a last shoot of energy, strength. Right? And so, like they're like, maybe this is that. Maybe this is like that prejudice thing. Yeah, like that prejudice thing is like it's its last minute.
Yeah, maybe, right?
I'm really hoping
its last bite.
Yeah, and it's gonna be a big one. But we'll be fine.
Yeah, and not to like get spiritual and woo with it even, but like I'm always gonna go there.
I mean, again, we're in a shot.
But like, even when you look at the astrology, it's not even that woo woo or spiritual. It's like when you look at the astrology, when you look at history, even great empires were at the time where a revolution or a crumble or something of that sort happens. We're like overdue for it.
Isn't there something? It's something with Pluto or something like that, isn't this year?
I think.
Yeah. It's something about our Pluto.
Yeah, it's like in the astrology for like the country, but it's also equally like just like if you look at history,
the 250-year mark of like the Roman Empire
and all the other empires that fell. And
yeah, but nobody cares about the other ones.
Okay. Work.
It's just the Roman Empire.
I see you and I value you.
They're all dead.
Well, I see and value the people that are of those countries that aren't dead, and that is their history that you're invalidating.
I'm sorry.
Like the French Revolution.
But you know what? We need a French Revolution.
Yeah.
I didn't say that on audio.
We need a whack. Yeah.
Okay. Look out for each other.
Yes. And since you don't know what's happening to your Instagram, we will plug that in here when we post it. But yeah, thank you so much for sitting down.
No, this was awesome. I haven't had a chat like this in a long time. Yeah. It's mostly just been me
venting.
Not even that, just standing strong against the forces. Yeah, I try not to get too venty in the chat with everyone, just because I kind of feel like I'm the source of relief almost.
I
don't want to express concern.
I get that. And
disheartened.
Remember to take care of yourself too. And
yeah, I'm taking some leave in a couple weeks for sure. I'm gonna like step back, do a little decompression.
Good.
We're gonna go skiing
Yeah.
next weekend.
Word.
Not me.
Oh yeah,
I
you
don't
coming?
do
But
active
no skiing.
things. No, I'm not doing anything. That would require the cold and mountains. I don't do either. Justin will tell you. No, he literally texted me and was like, "Hey, since we're doing Valentine's Day the weekend before, are you cool if I leave for the entire weekend? I just wanted to ask, like, it's snowboarding and stuff, so like you won't really want to go, but like you can come." And I was like, "We have a drag brunch on Sunday.
Send me all the information. I'll put it in the chat."
Okay, thank
sure.
you. Yeah.
Of course.
So I was like, I have to be here for this anyway, and I was like, also like, I don't want to.
I don't want to do that.
No. But like you love that stuff, so
yeah.
go have fun. Yeah,
Happy place
he
for
did ask
sure.
permission first.
Yes, thank you so much for sitting down.
Yeah, this is
Thank
awesome.
you for being here. And yeah, I'll if you want to like turn that on now.
Goodbye.
Well, do you want to
Oh
do
yeah.
an intro at least?
Well, I was gonna do an intro and an outro, just us two.
Oh, okay.
With the logistical stuff, but
Do I just push?
Yeah.
Just push the pause button or the stop button?
you can just press the stop button.
Leave. Stop.
Thank you so much for watching the Queer Vision Pod. If you made it all the way through, you are a real one. You can find us at queeralina.org on Instagram, Facebook, and other things coming soon. You can also find Athena Marsh wherever you can find her. We will input it in later. So if you hear a little voice from God, it's me in the future.
You hear a pause? And that's her Instagram.
Yes. Thank you so much for watching this as always, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.
Adios, amigos.